Welcome back to Forgotten Fronts. Today, we take you to one of the most infamous battles of the First World War, a name etched into history as a symbol of suffering, sacrifice, and endurance, the Battle of Verdun. Verdun was not just another clash in the Great War. It was the longest battle of World War I, lasting nearly 10 months in 1916. It became a struggle not only for territory, but for national pride and survival. For France, Verdun was sacred ground, a place that could not fall. For Germany, it was the key to breaking French morale and forcing the Allies to the negotiating table. In this episode, we will uncover how the battle began, the brutal conditions soldiers endured, the endless artillery bombardments, the infamous forts of Verdun, and the staggering human cost of this colossal struggle. By the end, you will understand why Verdun became a rallying cry for France, why it is remembered as a living hell on earth, and how it defined the very nature of modern warfare. The story of Verdun begins in early 1916. After a year and a half of bloody stalemate on the Western Front, Germany sought a way to force France to its knees. Chief of the German General Staff, Erich von Falkenhayn, believed that France could be defeated not by breakthrough, but by exhaustion. His infamous plan was to, in his words, bleed France white. Verdun was chosen for several reasons. First, it was a historic fortress city, deeply symbolic to the French people. Second, it formed a vulnerable bulge in the French lines, defended on three sides. Third, its capture would be a blow to French morale, perhaps forcing them out of the war. On February 21, 1916, the German assault began with one of the heaviest artillery bombardments in history. Over 1 million shells rained down on French positions. The ground shook, forests were shredded, and villages disappeared under fire. Survivors described the earth itself convulsing. The French defenders clung desperately to their positions. Reinforcements were rushed in, including a young officer named Philippe Pétain, who would later become infamous in French history. At Verdun, Pétain became a national hero, organizing the defense with the rallying cry, "Ils ne passeront pas," they shall not pass. As the Germans advanced, the forts around Verdun became the focal point of the struggle. Fort Douaumont, poorly defended, fell early to the Germans, shocking France. Fort Vaux, however, would later become legendary for the desperate defense of its garrison. The French poured troops into Verdun via a single supply road, the Voie Sacrée, or Sacred Way. Day and night, trucks carried men, ammunition, and supplies into the inferno. It became a lifeline, a symbol of France's determination not to surrender Verdun. The soldiers at Verdun entered a nightmare beyond imagination. For 10 months, they endured continuous artillery fire, gas attacks, and relentless assaults. The landscape was transformed into a barren wasteland. Forests were obliterated, villages reduced to rubble, and hills churned into seas of mud and craters. Artillery dominated Verdun. It was said that Verdun was not a battle of men, but of shells. Millions of rounds were fired. Soldiers lived in constant fear of bombardment, never knowing when death might fall from the sky. Trenches collapsed, dugouts caved in, and men disappeared without trace. The conditions were horrific. Soldiers waded through mud filled with corpses. The smell of death was everywhere. Rats feasted on the fallen. Water was scarce, and food often spoiled before reaching the front. Letters from Verdun speak of exhaustion so deep that men fell asleep standing, of thirst so desperate they drank from shell holes filled with bodies. Despite this, French morale held. Pétain rotated units regularly, ensuring that no division was destroyed completely in the grinder. German soldiers, too, suffered immense losses, as attack after attack was met with ferocious resistance. Verdun became a test of endurance, not just of armies, but of nations. One of the most famous moments came at Fort Vaux, where a small French garrison, cut off and without water, resisted for days. Men fought hand-to-hand in pitch-dark corridors, choking on smoke and gas. When the survivors finally surrendered, the Germans were so impressed by their bravery that they saluted them. By summer 1916, Verdun had already cost hundreds of thousands of lives. But relief for France came indirectly. In July, the Allies launched the Battle of the Somme, forcing Germany to divert troops and artillery away from Verdun. French counterattacks, supported by new artillery tactics, began to regain lost ground. By December, the French had retaken Fort Douaumont and Fort Vaux. Verdun was saved. The cost, however, was staggering. The Battle of Verdun lasted from February to December 1916. Around 300,000 men were killed, and over 700,000 were wounded. The battlefield itself was left so scarred that it was declared a zone rouge, a red zone, where farming and habitation were impossible for decades. Even today, the ground is littered with unexploded shells and bones of the fallen. Verdun became a symbol of French determination. For France, it was a national epic, proof that they would not break. For Germany, it was a costly failure, a drain of men and resources that achieved nothing decisive. For soldiers on both sides, it was hell on earth. The cry, "They shall not pass," echoed through history, later becoming a rallying slogan in future wars. Verdun's legacy was not just military, but cultural, a reminder of the human cost of modern, industrialized war. The Battle of Verdun was more than a battle. It was a test of will, a symbol of endurance, and a tragedy on a scale almost beyond comprehension. It showed how far nations were willing to go, how much suffering men could endure, and how little ground could be gained at such immense cost. If you found this story powerful and want to explore more hidden chapters of the World Wars, make sure to subscribe to Forgotten Fronts. We bring history to life through storytelling. From the trenches to the greatest battles, from forgotten campaigns to the turning points that shaped our world. Thank you for watching, and join us next time as we uncover another chapter of history's most unforgettable wars.